Peter, I just want to get one final thought from you. Are there words that are used to describe men that offend you?
Not particularly, and if there are some I don't like, I certainly wouldn't want them banned, but it always goes back to that old adage, sticks and stones may break my bones, but there will always be something to offend a feminist.
Peter
Lloyd.
Well,
no, that's just obnoxious.
Peter
Sorry,
Lloyd
you have to give me a chance
I think we'll
to
let you
respond to
carry
that.
on this
That is
discussion.
ridiculous. No, hang on, I won't do your show again if you don't let me respond
Go on,
to that.
Kate, have a word.
Come on, that's ridiculous. I mean, first of all,
That, my friends, is the smile of victory. Caution, gang, this is your front row seat in the collision between feminism and logic. I'm your humble host, Dr. Steve. Make sure to like and subscribe, strap yourselves in, and let's have some fun. Here's a recent debate at the Oxford Student Union between Peter Hitchens and a very snarky, smug feminist.
I do my research, and the thing I'm referring to is when Peter Hitchens said about the rapes that occurred in Oxford, that obviously the fact that these were Muslims was important, because if you engage in a discourse where you think of other people as infidel and think of other people as lesser, that makes you more likely to be a rapist. That's why Muslims are more likely to be rapists. Exactly what you said.
Where? When?
2013. Look it up. You wrote it. Google it.
I didn't.
Right.
I didn't.
Okay.
You got the wrong person.
Problem is that this is. I mean, obviously, I did my research before the debate. That's just moronic to say that I didn't. Check it yourself. You should remember what you write, especially when it's that offensive.
You should get a new search engine.
The reason is that this also leads to harm, right? The reason why this discourse is so instrumental in perpetuating violence is obvious. Because apartheid doesn't make any sense if people aren't engaged in a discourse of racism. It will collapse under its own ridiculousness. It has to be buttressed by that discourse. Homophobic attacks make no sense without a discourse that legitimizes homophobia, without playing into that discourse and being part of that conversation. Transphobic attacks make and all of the trans women and trans men who die in this country and other countries makes no sense without the discourse that Brendan O'Neill specifically perpetuates when he refuses to recognise their chosen gender identity. Islamophobic attacks in the UK make absolutely no sense without a discourse of Islamophobia, without the discourse that Peter...
Now, after all that ranting, watch what happens when a student stands up and asks one simple, logical question.
You are engaged in a discourse of censorship. You are saying that the discourse of Islam is something that is wrong, something that should not be allowed, something that you object to. Yeah, go for it.
Is it not true that to have a different opinion isn't the same as telling other people that they shouldn't have or they can't have that opinion?
Absolutely not!
No! Yeah. Okay, let's say tomorrow night I do my usual Halloween party trick and I dress up as, say, Dracula. Am I culturally appropriating Transylvania?
Well, no, because Dracula is a well-known, vampire mythological creature. It's
from Transylvania.
Dracula's different. Dracula is literally a cartoon. It's not.
What else is a cartoon?
It's a myth. Dracula's a vampire. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is Halloween. We're allowed to dress up as vampires. Yeah. And what I'm saying, what I believe in, is culture appropriation. So for me, dressing up as someone like Moana is very different to dressing up as Dracula on Halloween.
Explain why. Just give us your thinking on this.
Basically, Moana is based on Polynesian cultures in the South Pacific. These are cultures that have faced oppression and discrimination today. They've had their lands taken away from them, and today there is still racial prejudice and discrimination against these people. And so to dress up in their native dress and use it as a costume, that's just mockery. It's offensive and it's disrespectful.
So you're getting the gist of the argument here. This Halloween, you can dress as a Transylvanian vampire. You can even talk in a mock Romanian accent, although Bela Lugosi was Hungarian. That's totally cool. But if you're a little white girl who wants to dress like Moana because you love the movie so much, well, sorry, you can't, because,
You're a very intelligent lady. I've read your articles for many years, but I worry that I think this is certifiably insane. I genuinely think, and it would be funny if it wasn't so dangerous. This constantly seeing of everything through the prism of race all the time. The Polynesians, Okay, maybe some Polynesians in the past have had a rough time, or maybe they're having it now. Native Indians, black people, white people in Britain probably had a pretty rough time when the Vikings invaded.
I mean,
when
I'm
the
going to say
Romans
that's very
invaded.
different to racial oppression and slavery.
Of course it's very different.
Right.
Of course it is. Like Dracula's very different. My daughter is white. If she dresses up as Elsa, she's dressing up as a character from a film that she really likes. She's 10 now. She'd think that was really uncool. If she dressed up as Moana, which she wasn't planning to do, but she will be now, that wouldn't be her mocking or in any way being disrespectful to Polynesian culture. That would be her dressing up as a brilliant, strong female role model from a film. My daughter doesn't see colour because she's not been raised to see colour. Most children don't see colour, and you're telling them they should.
No, I'm not at all. I'm saying they need to be aware. Like,
why?
I wish we could live in an idealistic world where colour and race wasn't an issue. That would be wonderful, but we don't. And so it is important that at some point children become aware of this.
People are confused by the two arguments being presented as twin arguments. On the one hand, the little girls can't dress up as a Polynesian because that's racist. On the other hand, they can't dress up as somebody of their own ethnicity, a white princess, because that's superior.
So, to me, I'm going to say that's kind of where I draw the line. I don't agree so much with the writer on this point.
Sorry, dear, it won't work that way. Once you've let the genie out of the bottle, note the Aladdin metaphor, once you've seeded the notion that supposed white oppression and non-white victimhood are now the absolute standards for determining what's right and what's wrong, you've now made it possible for 6-year-old princesses to be seen as the epitome of white supremacist oppression. It's called deductive reasoning, and take a look at where it ends up going.
On this point,
I'm dressing up as a white princess.
I mean, for her argument was that it's the white beauty standard, and that Elsa with her blonde hair, blue eyes is promoting the idea that that's
What about the other princess? She wasn't blonde. Are we allowed to dress up as the sister?
I mean, to me, do you know what? That's a different argument. What I think is a problem is cultural appropriation. That is about beauty standards, and you know we see that with everything everywhere.
But appropriation implies in some way theft, as if in some way dressing up as a character from a film is in any way stealing someone's culture or disrespecting.
It's not stealing it. It is
That's what appropriation means.
Exactly.
How is it? It's celebrating. If anything, it's celebrating that culture.
But Julia, like you know, you're not from those cultures, and so
I've made the terrible error of being white, therefore I'm not allowed an opinion.
Here's the trans activist who's openly claiming that the white race is the most violent and oppressive force of nature on Earth. Take a look.
What kind of country is modern Britain? No doubt it's a country that likes to think of itself as inclusive, but that depends where you're standing. To me, as a transgender mixed-race person, we live in a deeply racist society. The government's race audit for England identified discrimination against people of colour in many of our institutions, ranging from the police to the justice system to schools. Does this surprise you? It's old news to me and almost a bad joke to identify it now. It's something that we've known for years, but the political will has not been there to deal with it, and I'm not sure it is now. Why should we expect anything else from a country that's built its success on the enslavement of non-white people? It's that continuous cycle of racism that explains where we are now. Why does the UK acknowledge the sacrifice of people killed in wars, but not the spilled blood of black? If the UK took our oppression seriously, then people like me who call out racism would be listened to, rather than ridiculed or threatened with death. If white people want to see an improvement for people of colour, they need to understand that racism is not learned, it's inherited, and either consciously or unconsciously passed down through privilege. The uncomfortable truth is that the white race is the most violent and oppressive force of nature on Earth. My worry is that whatever governments do to tinker with institutional racism, it is so ingrained in the fabric of British society that it is too late to do anything about it.
My, that's quite the list of grievances, but how well does it hold up under logical scrutiny?
Well, let me look at education. Let's look at the figures on education. 33% of white kids go to university or further education. 37% of black kids go to university or further education. 67% of Indian kids go to university or further education. 76% of Chinese kids go to university or further education. Where's the racism in that?
I'm talking about how people's history and how people's
But I'm talking
cultures.
about now and the chances of young
but
children.
I'm not talking about their...
But what's wrong with these figures?
I'm about to tell you. I'm not talking about their academic performance. I'm talking about how we are taught about each other. If black kids aren't being taught about their histories, if we're being taught, you know, that white history is paramount, that's essentially feeding into a white supremacist narrative. We can't be teaching kids that white is the default, that white people's history is the sole history of this country. We need to be taught about black contributions and other contributions of other cultures within society.
But for most people, what racism is and what they'd like to improve is the chances of people getting on regardless of the colour of your skin.
That's not just racism, though. I'm talking about the mental health.
But it's still quite an important thing, and these figures would suggest that as a country we're doing reasonably well.
No, that's facts and figures.
But you think, well, facts and figures are important, but you think,
I think it goes deeper
that we are irredeemably racist, don't you?
What, this society?
I
do. Unfortunately, I do. I think that Britain, the success of Britain is literally based on racism.
And do you think we're irredeemably sexist as well?
100%.
But if you take something like gender,
I think
we are making advances in terms of gender pay.
All men smashing down the patriarchy, we are going to be on that page. So I think, yes,
but we can make progress.
I think we can make progress and we can combat it.
But if it's irredeemable, you can't make progress.
I mean, it's fighting human nature, and humans are flawed.
Humans are flawed, but you seem to think that white people are uniquely evil.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that individual people are unique.
Well,
I'm talking about society.
No. You said whites are the most violent and oppressive people.
Well, yeah.
That's what you said in your film.
And if you're going to go back
so that would seem to me that
statistics point that out too.
Really? Well, the Chinese were massacring Chinese and other races long before they'd ever met a white person. Attila the Hun wasn't white. It's the same in the subcontinent if you go back hundreds of years as well. The genocide in Rwanda was black on black. So is the Congo, which is the rape capital of the world. These things have got nothing to do with white people. 85% of whites in this country feel they belong to Britain. 84% of Asians. 81% of black people. It's not clear that non-white people in this country feel the way you do.
My friends, that is what we call feminism versus logic, and that's going to wrap it up for us here. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, but most importantly, always remember.
Quite frankly,
Tracy, I can't believe what I just heard you say.
There's a reason that women live longer, Mark. Let me tell you, it is because we are stronger and we are happier at the end of the day than most men, and that is factual, and you know it.
When men are married to women who scream like you, they just want to die sooner.
Oh!